their message is peace and coming together in the country. What's your message?
You don't believe that for 1 minute, do you?
That their message is?
Yeah.
That's what they said to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe them. Of course
Any
I believe them
protests
when they say
over the
that.
deaths of these cops today in Baton Rouge?
I don't know that. I don't know that.
Any riots or protests over the police officers in Dallas, Texas?
What are you asking?
It's a pretty simple question.
I asked you if what's your message to the people. Their message is one of peace. What is your message?
You know that 21 black people were murdered across the United States? Was there any reporting on that?
There was a black officer who was killed today. But
was there any reporting on that?
Sheriff, please, let's just keep the volume down here. So I understand, and listen, I'm
looking at 3 dead cops this week,
Sheriff,
and I'm looking at 5 last year. You trying to tell me to keep it down?
Just please, if you'll just please, we can keep it civil. So, because the message to people at home, I'm sure you want, is one of civility.
I wish, Don, I wish you had that message of civility.
I would like to have a conversation
toward this hateful ideology, these purveyors of hate.
You don't know what my message is.
That's
what I want to say to you is,
these people preach vile and virtue
we'll be right
in the
back.
name
We're
of
going to go to break,
hate.
and we'll be right back. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this: do we know that generally the American law enforcement officers are racist? Do we know this?
Go on.
I ask a question.
Do I know American general law enforcement are racist? I don't think anyone is accusing. If you're insinuating that people are accusing or saying that law enforcement across this country as a whole are racist, then your assumption is wrong.
Rates of involvement in violent crime, and crime in general, but violent crime, you're going to see that black males are overrepresented.
Yeah.
Overrepresented.
Yeah.
In terms of being involved in violent crime. That's going to mean more arrests. That's going to mean more people going to prison. This stuff has already been debunked.
Sheriff, that's a different conversation.
Every time you don't have a response to something I say, you say it's a different conversation.
I don't have a response to you. Is that we're having 2 different conversations. I'm asking the questions here. You're answering the questions by asking questions about some other subject that we're not discussing.
We're talking about this hateful ideology called Black Lives Matter. You said you're not a member. You can't be a member. It's not an organization. There's no structure.
That's what you're talking about.
Listen, I understand, and it is a hateful ideology.
I understand it's a very stressful time for you.
These individuals.
And Sheriff, we appreciate you coming on.
They preach vile and vitriol in the name of virtue.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to First Reaction TV. My name is J Mart. That was one of Don Lemon's infamous interviews. I figured we'd give it a play since this is his, or I guess yesterday was his official last day at CNN, and he is no longer a news anchor. So we're going to get in the video here. I appreciate you watching. Please hit that like button, comment, and make sure you hit that subscribe button too. I appreciate you watching. Alright, so there are 2 big announcements here today. Don Lemon is getting a huge promotion at Fox News. No, just kidding. He is fired. Don Lemon is fired. Finally fired. Finally fired. So we're going to check out, see if there's any clips here.
Breaking news, and Kaylee actually said, what took so long? CNN is parting ways with star anchor Don Lemon. The network made the announcement just a moment ago, actually. And it says, quote, CNN and Don have parted ways. Don will forever be a part of the CNN family, I guess, but he can't work there. And we thank him for his contributions over the past 17 years. We wish him well and will be cheering him on in his future endeavors. Don Lemon also speaking out, writing a statement. Here's part of that. I was informed this morning by my agent that I have been terminated by CNN. I am stunned. So clearly they see this differently. After 17 years at CNN, I would have thought that someone in management would have had the decency to tell me directly. At no time was I ever given any indication that I would not be able to continue to work. I have loved at the network. Kaylee McEnany.
Yeah, it's quite something. You know, we just, I would just say we saw him take a break briefly for some comments he made, and then here we are.
Here we are. More Outnumbered in a moment.
Hey, everyone.
Wow, okay. Okay. Dude didn't even get a phone call. Like, dude, I didn't know it was like that. Oh my goodness. This dude is flat out whining about it. I gotta look at this again. At no time at no time was I ever given any indication that I would not be able to continue the work I do. Bro, you should have been fired. What was it, 5-6 months ago, whenever they started making this huge change and, going a different direction at CNN, where they were trying to get away from the race baiting and getting away from the hate and the division and trying to do actual news. You got demoted, Dawn. You got demoted to the morning show, and they told you that it was a promotion, and you told all your guests that it was a promotion because you were getting roasted online for getting demoted. And you had to come up with this narrative in your head, and you lied to everybody, including yourself. And you told yourself that it was a promotion, that you had to now share a TV show with 2 other co-anchors. So that's not true at all. You were given plenty of indications. Second, man, since this has happened, dude, I just uploaded a video about you going on this racist tangent against Vivek, Ramaswamy whenever he interviewed him on his show. I mean, it was like one of the most racist things I've ever seen. And, Don Lemon is one of those people where he thinks he's above that. I guess because of his color, he thinks he can't discriminate against people or say rude and racist things. Don Lemon is just one of those elite types. But he said some pretty unforgivable things, in my opinion, in the recent video I just made. He lied, said that black people don't have their Second Amendment rights. I mean, he was just coming up with off the wall stuff, and then all the sexist commentary that he had, and I mean, you can see it. Like, if you ever watch their show, his co-anchors, man, like, they're afraid of him and despise sitting up there with him. So there was plenty of indication. Now, obviously, he's unhappy, he's upset, and he's gonna say all these things like, bro, there's no right way to fire you. Like you said, you've been there for 17 years. Either way, you're gonna throw a fit, and I'll be honest, whenever you deal with people like this, it comes a point when you're afraid to deal with people like this, because if you say the wrong thing to Don Lemon, or say something that you shouldn't say, you say anything in a normal way, in a normal conversation, but Don Lemon takes it as racist. Then he tells everyone that he was fired by racist management and they didn't like him because he was black or because he was a minority in the LGBTQ community. I mean, there's a million reasons why, if I was Don Lemon's boss, I would send him a text message through my secretary, secretary, just to make sure that you don't have to deal with people like this, because that's where things are right now. I mean, that's the world we're living, that any microaggression that can be taken out of context, people are going to use it against you. So I would have fired Don Lemon through an email too, which I'm not sure if it was through an email or his manager, however he said it. I 100% would have done the same thing with Don Lemon, because there's no way in hell that I am firing this man in a face-to-face. I was informed this morning by my agent. So yeah, someone reached out to his agent and they told him, hey, we're going in a different direction. Sorry, Don. The other crazy big news is that Tucker Carlson is out.
Here's some major breaking media news. Tucker Carlson is out at Fox News. They just released a statement. His last show was last Friday, so there will be no episodes of Tucker Carlson tonight or any other night. He is parting ways with Fox News entirely. Brianna, this is huge news. Tucker Carlson has the top-rated cable news show. He's had that show now since about 2016. He was a Fox News contributor going back to 2009. Prior to that, obviously, he had a show on CNN. He had a show on MSNBC. He helped found the Daily Caller in between, which I actually worked for in its kind of much earlier inception. And then committed fully to Fox News, became really their most prominent opinion anchor, being someone ideologically connected to Trumpist populism and Trump's foreign policy and all of those issues. This is huge news, totally unexpected. Obviously, we had the Dominion settlement last week, so we can just speculate about why this is. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of speculation that this is connected to the Dominion lawsuit, although really Lou Dobbs, who no longer works at Fox News, and Maria Bartiromo, who still does for now, and Jeanine Pirro, another Fox person, were more significant in the Dominion stuff than Tucker. But nevertheless, wow, I'm speechless.
So, right, the implication is, I think the obvious implication is that this is somehow connected to the fact that Fox News just lost nearly $800 million as a consequence of the Dominion lawsuit. And to be clear, it's not just what aired. It's not that Fox was trying to avoid potential liability for airing things that ended up not being true. It really was the text messages and behind-the-scene conversations from people like Tucker Carlson, although not exclusively Tucker Carlson, that lended credibility to this argument and legal liability to this idea that they knowingly put false things on the air. That's what the liability is for, not the idea that sometimes newscasters make mistakes.
Yeah, she's 100% right here, but then Robbie's point, though, was the same, that Tucker's ordeal in this, I don't think, was quite as big as some of the other people that he listed. And if you're going to say that, hey, he got fired for this and this is why, then, dude, Fox is going to have about 5 or 6 heads rolling here, or they would have rolled before Tucker, because Tucker is the, highest of the high as far as, news anchors at Fox. And you would have thought, if that was the reason why, if it was because of the lawsuit, that these lower anchors and the lower leads would have went prior to that. So it does, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because then your wheels start turning in your head. You're saying, well, where in the hell does he go? Like, there is no other place for Tucker Carlson, which is kind of like a sad and realistic thing, though, that there is no other conservative media out there other than going out on your own, doing things like YouTube, which, the way Tucker talks, the dude will probably be kicked off, within like the first week he gets on, just like the rest of these, extreme conservative voices. It's not taking long to get banned off places like that. So, like, man, I don't know. That's why I guess it's more mind-blowing to me, is because I think it is shocking. I thought they made it through this. It didn't seem like anybody was getting fired over this. So the last person you would expect to would be Tucker, and he's the first one to go, which is a little head-scratching.
Or the facts end up being wrong. Certainly, there's been no shortage of fake news on networks that are liberal-leaning, Hunter Biden laptop story, all of this that we've covered even earlier in this show. But that Tucker and others texting about how they didn't believe that the voter fraud claims were real, but still airing segments about it was libelous, and something that made them legally accountable. So people have also been pointing to the fact that his Friday show seemed to be rather run-of-the-mill 420 style show, as evidence that maybe he didn't know this was coming and that this was sudden.
Bill O'Reilly, when he was pushed out over sexual misconduct allegations, he was not given a final show. He was, taken off, and maybe that was phrased as kind of a suspension, but then it was never. Then that was it. His poster went dark. So right, that would lead one to speculate that it wasn't planned any more recently than this weekend. I mean, look, we don't know for certain that it's connected to the lawsuit. They didn't have to admit. They had to admit that things were said on the network that were not true, but it wasn't. There wasn't a lot of apologizing going on. There was a massive amount was paid to settle the case before it gets to the point where a jury orders them to do something even more painful. So in some sense, I don't know. They weren't totally out of the woods because there were going to be additional lawsuits, but it's not like they weren't made to do this. I don't know.
So,
I truly don't know.
For example, because I know I was speaking in rather.
Either way, I mean, look, this is a crazy day. I mean, I don't think anyone did have it planned. Kind of like he said, I mean, you know, he was doing his normal shows last week. Like I just mentioned that, and Robbie mentioned, there were other people that were doing this a lot worse and pushing the voting fraud narrative worse than Tucker even was. And look, man, they're not as essential as Tucker Carlson. I mean, like that name is about as high profile as you can get in media news. And if it was just strictly over that, there's no way Tucker went first before these other people. Like, there's just no way, in my opinion, that happens. I also think this is sad, regardless of how you feel about Tucker Carlson. He does some weird segments. He talks about some weird stuff sometimes. He got caught up in this election fraud stuff. But sometimes, just like some of the conversations with Russell Brand that he had on, he interviews people and has guests on that you won't see anywhere else. And sometimes you need those sorts of dissenting voices out there in the world, and you need those sorts of people to push back. And look, we need a ton of pushback right now. I mean, with the corporate greed and all the stuff that was going on with Pfizer and the vaccines and COVID and, a lot of stuff that you'll never hear any of these news anchors ever bring up if their life depended on it. And Tucker would have guests like that on. So like I said, regardless how you feel about the guy and all the shitty things that he might have done, you need voices like that sometimes, because sometimes the crazy people are right. Like, regardless of how you feel about that statement, it's true, okay? The crazy people 2 years ago were the ones telling you that COVID was just like the flu, that you didn't need to wear masks, vaccines weren't going to save. Like, those were the crazy people, and the right people, the people who knew everything, were the ones screaming at people in grocery stores with masks on, were the ones screaming at people to have lockdowns, screaming at people that they can't open their businesses, screaming at people that their kids can't be in school. Those were the right people, So, like, you need the crazy people sometimes to push back, man, because once you get in that herd mentality and the first sheep is leading the way, and then you have a billion sheep coming behind it, you have that one black sheep out there that's yelling like, dude, I'm going the easy way. And sometimes that black sheep knows what the hell he's doing. And I'd like to know where he ends up, because I think Tucker is a voice that needs to be heard. Like I said, regardless, man, I don't care how you feel about him. Like, you're not going to change my mind about this, no matter who it is or what you say about him. The guy needs, or a voice like that needs to be out there. It just has to, especially in today's media, where if you turn on MSNBC or CNN, all you hear is Trump, 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 Trump. Like, you need someone talking about real things going on in the world, like China taking over our country currently. Chinese spies, and Chinese buying up our farmlands, and Chinese trying to install battery power plants all over our country. Like, people need to know what's actually going on in their country, other than just, gender theory and whatever else is going on. So I think, I mean, it sucks, man. Tucker's got to end up somewhere. I mean, he's going to have to. Don, I hope no one ever sees Don Lemon ever again. The guy has been, like, some of his early stuff, you know, like I made fun of and it was kind of funny. Don Lemon turned into one of the rudest, racist, grumpiest people I've ever seen. And the dude should have been kicked off television months ago. So that dude could take a hike. And I honestly hope he never comes back near a camera ever again. Because honestly, with his behavior, he doesn't deserve to be in front of a camera or have anyone ever listen to him ever again. But I don't know, man. This is crazy. I'm sure there'll be more updates in the future here. I'm sure more will come out. I'm sure Tucker, you know, will have a statement. And I'm sure it won't be as bitter as Don Lemon's about, my manager fired me. So we'll just have to see what happens here. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Please hit that like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know what you guys think's going on. Let me know where you think Tucker will end up. Or if you think he'll retire. I mean, hell, I guess you never know. But I think Tucker's way too young for that. Let me know if you think Don Lemon should come back too. I appreciate you watching, guys.
Yes, that's a different conversation. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. There's an issue when it comes to violence. Black on black crime, or it's crime. White people kill white people, tend to kill white people.
You know,
black people tend to kill black people.
Not in the numbers.
Not in the numbers. That's fine, but that's a different conversation.
I don't care who white people are killing.
That is a different conversation than